My name is Vesper Chen, and I'm 27 years old. 4 days ago, my mother held my engagement ring up to the light at a family brunch, squinted like she was inspecting a counterfeit bill, and said loud enough for the entire restaurant to hear, "Well, I suppose love doesn't require taste." My fiancé was sitting right next to me. He heard every word. What he did 48 hours later didn't cost him a single dollar, but it cost my mother her reputation, her country club presidency, and a $2.3 million business deal she'd been chasing for 8 months. Before I tell you exactly how a quiet software engineer from Minnesota dismantled my mother's empire with nothing but the truth, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if this story genuinely resonates with you. And drop a comment telling me where you're watching from and what you're doing right now while you listen. I love knowing who's out there. Now let me take you back to last Sunday morning, the morning my mother looked at a 47,000 Paraiba tourmaline and called it trash. Here's what you need to know about my family before we get to the brunch from hell. My mother, Catherine Chen, is 54 years old. She runs Chen and Associates, a boutique PR firm in Seattle that represents tech executives, venture capitalists, and old money families who need their reputations managed. She's good at it. Very good. Her client list reads like a Forbes 500 directory, and she charges $800 an hour for crisis management consulting. Catherine has built her entire identity around appearances. The right address in Madison Park, the right memberships at Rainier Club and Seattle Golf Club, the right charities on her donor list. She measures success in square footage, designer labels, and how many times her name appears in Seattle Met Magazine's society pages. My father, David Chen, is 56. He's a corporate attorney at a mid-sized firm downtown. Quiet, methodical, the kind of man who's perfected the art of nodding at appropriate intervals while Catherine makes every single decision about their lives. I've never once heard him disagree with her. Not about where they vacation, not about which car to buy, not even about what to order at restaurants. Then there's my older sister, Jade. She's 30, married to Marcus Whitmore, a private equity partner at Cascade Capital. Their wedding 3 years ago had 240 guests, ice sculptures, and a live performance by a Grammy-winning cellist. Jade's engagement ring is a 2.8-carat cushion-cut diamond from Tiffany's. Catherine mentions it at least twice a month, usually when introducing Jade to new clients or friends. "This is my daughter Jade. That's a Tiffany setting. Marcus has excellent taste." And then there's me. I'm a data analyst at a mid-sized healthcare tech company in South Lake Union. I work with patient outcome metrics, hospital efficiency models, and insurance claim algorithms. I make decent money, $78,000 a year, and I've paid my own rent since I graduated from University of Washington 5 years ago. I have my own apartment in Capitol Hill, my own car, my own life. Catherine has never once introduced me by saying, "This is my daughter Vesper, she works in healthcare analytics." It's always just, "This is Vesper," followed by a quick pivot to whatever topic lets her talk about herself or Jade. There's a wall in my parents' living room dedicated to family photos, professional portraits in expensive frames, all carefully curated by Catherine, 11 photos of Jade. Her college graduation from Stanford, her engagement shoot in Napa Valley, her wedding day, her and Marcus at various charity galas, a series of Christmas portraits that look like they belong in a Nordstrom catalog. 3 photos of me. One is a group family shot from 5 years ago. Another is from my high school graduation, partially obscured by a decorative vase Catherine placed in front of it. The third is from when I was 8 years old holding a science fair trophy. I know counting photos sounds petty, but when your mother has spent your entire life keeping score, you learn to count too. Catherine has never called my fiancé by his name in front of her friends. It's always Vesper's boyfriend, even after we got engaged. Or sometimes, the software person Vesper is seeing. I met Ethan Rhodes 2 years ago at a coffee shop on Pike Street. I'd brought my laptop to work on a presentation, and the Wi-Fi crashed. He was sitting 2 tables over, noticed me cursing at my screen, and offered to help. Turned out the router needed a simple reset, which he did in about 90 seconds. We started talking. He bought me a replacement coffee. 4 hours later, we were still there. Ethan is 29, originally from Minneapolis. He's a senior software engineer at a tech company in Bellevue. He works on cloud infrastructure, back-end systems, the kind of technical architecture that makes apps run smoothly, but that most people never think about. He's quiet, thoughtful, the kind of person who listens more than he speaks and actually remembers what you tell him. He's also the complete opposite of what Catherine wanted for me. He doesn't wear designer clothes. He drives a 7-year-old Honda Civic. He spends his weekends hiking in the Cascades or reading science fiction novels, not networking at country club events or attending gallery openings in Pioneer Square. 3 weeks ago, Ethan proposed on the rooftop of our apartment building at sunset. He'd set up a picnic with my favorite foods, strung fairy lights along the railing, and built a Spotify playlist of every song that had been playing during our important moments together. First date, first road trip, first time, he told me he loved me. The ring stopped my breath. The center stone is a Paraiba tourmaline, an electric blue-green gemstone that seems to glow from within. It's set in platinum with 2 small diamonds on either side, simple and elegant. The color shifts depending on the light, sometimes deep teal, sometimes bright turquoise, always stunning. I loved it immediately, not because of its value, which I didn't know at the time, but because it was nothing Catherine would ever choose. It was unique, unconventional, mine. When I called Jade the next morning to share the news, the first thing she said was, "How many carats?" I laughed. "It's not a diamond." Silence. Then, "What is it?" "A Paraiba tourmaline." Another pause. "Mom's going to have opinions." "She always does." "No, I mean she's specifically going to have opinions about this. Just be ready." I should have recognized the warning in Jade's voice. Should have heard the edge of something between concern and resignation. But I'd spent 27 years hoping that maybe this time would be different. Maybe this time Catherine would see how happy I was and just be happy for me. 27 years, and I was still making that same bet. Last Sunday, Catherine organized a family brunch at Canlis, one of Seattle's most expensive restaurants with views of Lake Union and a dress code that requires reservations 3 weeks in advance. She said it was to celebrate my engagement. When Ethan and I arrived, I immediately noticed 2 extra place settings. Seated at the table with Catherine and David were Patricia Monroe and Susan Blackwell, 2 of Catherine's longtime clients. Patricia owns a chain of luxury boutique hotels across the Pacific Northwest. Susan is on the board of Seattle Symphony and chairs at least 4 different charity galas every year. "I thought this was family only," I whispered to Ethan in the lobby. He squeezed my hand. "It's fine, I'm fine." But I knew what this was. Catherine doesn't do anything without an audience. Every moment of her life is a performance, and she'd brought her most important viewers. The moment we sat down, before the server even brought water, Catherine reached across the table for my left hand. She didn't hug me first, didn't say congratulations. She pulled my hand toward the window light and tilted it, examining the ring the way a jeweler examines a suspicious stone. 5 seconds of silence. Then that expression, the one I've seen 1,000 times. Lips pressed together, eyebrows slightly raised, the look that says, "I'm disappointed, but I'm going to be polite about it." "Well," she said, her voice carrying across the table, across the nearby tables, across what felt like the entire restaurant. "I suppose love doesn't require taste." Patricia's wineglass stopped halfway to her mouth. Susan stared at her menu. David didn't look up from his water. Jade, sitting next to Marcus at the far end of the table, met my eyes for a fraction of a second. I saw something there, recognition maybe, or guilt, before she looked away. Catherine set my hand down like she was returning a defective product. Then she turned to Ethan with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Ethan, darling, you'll have to tell us about this choice. It's certainly unique." Here's what I didn't know in that moment. What none of us knew. Ethan had recorded the entire brunch on his phone. I didn't cry at the table. 27 years of practice had taught me how to smile through humiliation, how to fold a napkin just so, how to redirect conversation with the muscle memory of someone who's been doing damage control since childhood. Ethan's hand found mine under the table. His grip was steady, warm, a single point of contact that said, "I'm here," without saying anything at all. The rest of the brunch moved exactly the way Catherine's events always move. Her talking, the rest of us orbiting like planets around a sun that burns too bright. She told Patricia and Susan about the engagement party she was planning at Rainier Club. 120 guests, she said. String quartet, champagne fountain, Past hors d'oeuvres from that excellent catering company that did the Mackenzie wedding last spring. I hadn't agreed to any of it. She hadn't asked. Catherine described the guest list with the precision of a military strategist. The Vandermeers would be there, of course. And the Hutchinsons, the entire board from Seattle Symphony, half the members from the golf club, 3 journalists from Seattle Met. And wasn't it wonderful that the event coordinator at Rainier had managed to secure the Cascade Room on such short notice? Jade caught my eye once across the table. Her expression lasted less than a second, something between sympathy and warning, before Marcus said something about a deal closing and she turned to respond. After the main course, Catherine pulled out her phone and started showing Susan photos from Jade's engagement 3 years ago. The Napa Vineyard backdrop, the professional photographer, Jade's Tiffany ring catching golden hour light. "This is what real commitment looks like," Catherine said. "When a man truly values a woman, it shows in every detail." Patricia glanced at my hand, then quickly away. Ethan didn't react. He just sat there, back straight, expression neutral, like a man who'd heard exactly what he needed to hear and was filing it away for later. We left after dessert. Ethan shook David's hand, nodded politely at Patricia and Susan, and guided me out with his hand on the small of my back. He held the door for me, waited until we were in his car, and then sat in the parking lot for a full minute without starting the engine. "I'm sorry," I finally said, "about her. Don't apologize for her. She does this, she's always done this." Ethan turned to look at me. His eyes were calm, but there was something behind them I hadn't seen before. Not anger exactly, something colder, more deliberate. "Vesper," he said, "your mother just told a table full of people, including her business associates, that I don't value you because of the ring I chose. In a public restaurant. While recording it for social media content." "What?" He pulled out his phone, opened Instagram, and showed me. Catherine had posted a photo 20 minutes ago. The table at Canlis, champagne glasses raised, everyone smiling. The caption read, "Celebrating family milestones at Seattle's finest. Some occasions call for excellence in every detail. #family, #celebration, #standards. The comments were already rolling in. "Gorgeous setting. You always do everything with such class. Catherine, this looks perfect as always." She'd tagged the restaurant, tagged Patricia's hotel chain, tagged Susan's foundation, and somehow made my engagement about her brand. I stared at the phone. At my mother's carefully curated performance. At the life she'd built where everything, including her daughters, existed as props in her narrative. That's when Ethan told me something I didn't know. "This isn't the first time she's done this," he said. "What do you mean?" "Last Thanksgiving, when I met your extended family for the first time. Do you remember what your mother said when your Aunt Linda asked about my job?" I tried to remember. Thanksgiving had been 8 months ago, a blur of too many people and too much wine, and Catherine holding court in the dining room. "She said I work in IT," Ethan continued. "When your aunt asked what kind of IT, your mother said, 'Oh, computer things,' and then changed the subject to Marcus's promotion. I work in cloud architecture for a company that handles infrastructure for half the hospitals in the Pacific Northwest. I have a master's degree from MIT. I make $140,000 a year, but your mother reduced me to computer things and moved on." I felt something cold settle in my chest. "And then there was your birthday dinner in July." Ethan kept his voice level, not accusatory, just factual. "We went to that French place in Bellevue. Your mother asked what I got you for your birthday. I told her about the weekend trip to Victoria I'd planned, the hotel overlooking the harbor, the reservations at that restaurant you'd been wanting to try." She said, "How sweet. A little getaway." Then she turned to Jade and said, "Remember when Marcus surprised you with Maui for your birthday? Now that's a proper celebration." I remembered that dinner. Remembered the way Catherine's words had landed, the way I'd laughed it off, told myself she didn't mean it the way it sounded, that I was being too sensitive. But I wasn't being too sensitive, I was being trained. 27 years of training to accept disrespect disguised as family dynamics, to smooth over insults packaged as jokes, to apologize for feeling hurt by things that were designed to hurt. Ethan started the car. We drove back to my apartment in silence, but it wasn't an uncomfortable silence. It was the silence of two people who'd both realized something important and were giving it room to breathe. Inside my apartment, I made tea neither of us drank. Ethan sat on the couch, his laptop open, typing something I couldn't see. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Research," he said. "On what?" "Your mother's business." I sat down next to him. On his screen was Catherine's company website, her client list, her press mentions, her carefully constructed professional empire. "Why are you researching her business?" He closed the laptop and looked at me. Really looked at me, the way he had the day we met, like I was someone worth his full attention. "Because tomorrow morning, I'm going to call her. I'm going to tell her exactly what she said, exactly how it made you feel, and I'm going to give her one chance to make it right. And if she doesn't, then I'm going to make sure everyone who was at that brunch and everyone who wasn't understands exactly who Catherine Chen is when the cameras aren't rolling." "Ethan, she'll never apologize." "I know," he said. "That's what I'm counting on." I stayed awake most of that night. Lay in bed staring at the ceiling while Ethan slept beside me, his breathing steady and even. I kept replaying the brunch, but also everything that came before it. All the small moments I'd filed away as just mom being mom. The time in college when I made Dean's List and Catherine said, "Well, UW isn't exactly Harvard, but it's good you're trying." Meanwhile, Jade's Stanford acceptance had been framed and hung in the entryway for 5 years. The time I got promoted to senior analyst and Catherine said, "That's nice, dear," then spent the next 20 minutes telling her book club friends about Marcus making partner. The time I bought my first car, a reliable used Honda, and Catherine said to the salesman within my hearing, "She's always been practical, not like her sister who has an eye for quality." Every single instance I'd swallowed. Every time I'd told myself it wasn't that bad, she didn't mean it like that. Why are you so sensitive? I'd learned the language of minimization fluently, had become an expert translator, converting cruelty into misunderstanding, malice into miscommunication. But lying there at 3 in the morning, I finally let myself think the thing I'd been avoiding for 27 years. My mother doesn't love me less than Jade because I'm less successful, less polished, less whatever. She treats me this way because it serves her. Because having a golden child only works if you also have a comparison point. Because her entire identity is built on hierarchy, and hierarchies require someone at the bottom. I was never going to earn her approval because I was never supposed to. That realization should have broken me. Instead, it clarified everything. At 6 in the morning, Ethan woke up, saw me still awake, and didn't ask if I was okay. He just made coffee, brought me a cup, and said 3 words. "I'm calling her." I nodded. "Whatever happens after this," he said, "I need you to know something. That ring on your finger is a Paraiba tourmaline from a mine in Mozambique. There are maybe 500 gem-quality stones that color and clarity in the entire world. I worked with a gemologist for 3 months to source it. It cost me $47,000. I almost dropped my coffee. Your mother looked at one of the rarest gemstones on earth and called it tasteless. Not because she didn't know what it was, but because she didn't care. And I'm done pretending that's acceptable." He picked up his phone. "Before we move forward, I want you to ask yourself something. If a patient came to you, if one of your colleagues told you their mother publicly humiliated them at a family event, then posted about it on social media, what would you tell them?" "I would tell them that's emotional abuse." Ethan held my gaze. "That's what I thought." He dialed Catherine's number, put it on speaker, placed the phone on the table between us. It rang 3 times before she answered, her voice bright and polished even at 6:15 on a Monday morning. "Ethan, good morning. This is unexpected." "Good morning, Mrs. Chen. Do you have a few minutes to talk?" "Of course, darling. What's on your mind?" "I want to discuss what you said at brunch yesterday. About the engagement ring." A pause. Brief but telling. "Oh, Ethan, that was just family teasing. Vesper knows I didn't mean anything by it. You said love doesn't require taste while holding her ring up for the entire restaurant to see." The line went quiet. I could almost hear Catherine recalibrating, searching for the right tone, the right deflection. "I think you're taking this far too seriously." I was simply surprised by the choice. As her mother, I'm allowed to have opinions. "You're allowed to have opinions," Ethan said, his voice still calm, still even. "What you're not allowed to do is humiliate your daughter in public, then post about standards and excellence on Instagram 30 minutes later while tagging your business associates." Another pause, longer this time. "I don't appreciate your tone, Ethan." And I don't appreciate watching someone I love be diminished by someone who's supposed to love her more. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to apologize to Vesper. A real apology. No condition, no justifications. Or, I'm going to make sure Patricia Monroe and Susan Blackwell and every single person at that brunch understands exactly what they witnessed. Silence. Are you threatening me? I'm offering you a choice, Mrs. Chen. Make it right, or watch what happens when someone finally holds you accountable. Catherine's voice went cold. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Actually, Ethan said, I do. I've spent 2 years watching you. And I have receipts. He hung up. I stared at him. At this quiet software engineer from Minneapolis who'd just gone to war with the most formidable woman I'd ever known. What receipts? He opened his laptop, showed me a folder labeled C. Chen. Inside were screenshots. Dozens of them. Every Instagram post, every comment, every public interaction where Catherine had positioned herself as the arbiter of taste and excellence while subtly cutting down anyone who didn't meet her standards. And at the bottom of the folder, a file labeled brunch recording. You recorded it? Every word, he said. From the moment we sat down to the moment we left. Washington is a one-party consent state. I'm legally allowed to record conversations I'm part of. And now we wait. For what? For her to prove me right. It took 6 hours. At 12:30 that afternoon, my phone exploded. At 12:30 that afternoon, my phone exploded. The first call was from Jade. I let it go to voicemail. The second call came 30 seconds later. Also Jade. Then a text. Riley, call me now. Mom is losing it. I stared at the message. Jade never called me Riley. My name is Vesper. Riley was our cousin who lived in Portland. Jade was so flustered she'd typed the wrong name. Then came a call from David, my father, who texted maybe twice a year, usually just to forward links to articles about tax deductions or investment strategies. His contact photo flashed on my screen. That stiff professional headshot from his firm's website where he's wearing a gray suit and an expression that suggests he's thinking about contract law. I answered, Vesper, your mother is very upset. That was it. No hello. No context. Just the foundational truth of my childhood delivered in 8 words. Your mother is upset. And somehow that was supposed to be my problem to solve. What happened, Dad? She said Ethan called her this morning and was very disrespectful. He asked her to apologize for what she said at brunch. David went quiet. I could hear papers shuffling in the background, the ambient noise of his office. He was at work, calling me about my mother's feelings during billable hours. Vesper, you know how she is. There it was, the family password, the universal excuse. You know how she is. 4 words that had been used to justify 27 years of small cruelties, public humiliations, and emotional manipulation disguised as motherly concern. Yes, Dad, I do know how she is. That's the problem. Maybe if you just smoothed things over, apologized for the misunderstanding. There wasn't a misunderstanding. She insulted my ring in front of her business associates, then posted about standards on Instagram. More silence. Then, in a voice so quiet I almost didn't hear it, I know. What? I know what she does. I've always known. The papers stopped shuffling. The background noise of his office seemed to fade. Then why don't you ever say anything? Because, Vesper. He paused, and in that pause I heard 30 years of practiced avoidance. Because it's easier not to. He hung up before I could respond. The text kept coming. Marcus, Jade's husband, sent a message to the family group chat that Catherine had created specifically for wedding planning back when Jade got engaged and had never deleted. Hey everyone. Let's all take a breath and remember we're family. I'm sure this is just a communication issue. Then Catherine herself posted in the group chat. I am absolutely heartbroken that my own daughter would allow her fiancé to speak to me with such disrespect. After everything I've done for this family, after all the opportunities I've provided, this is the thanks I receive. I will be taking some time away from family events until I receive a proper apology. I read it 3 times. The performance of it, the strategic deployment of heartbroken and family and proper apology, all carefully chosen words designed to position her as the victim and me as the ungrateful daughter. Jade called again. This time I answered. What the hell is happening? Her voice was strained, the polished composure she usually wore cracking at the edges. Ethan called Mom this morning, asked her to apologize for what she said about my ring. And what did she say? She told him he was taking it too seriously and that she's allowed to have opinions. Jade exhaled slowly. Vesper, you need to fix this. I need to fix this? Jade, did you hear what she said at brunch? Yes, I was there. It was awkward. But you know Mom, she just has high standards. High standards. That was Jade's translation, the way she'd learned to reframe Catherine's cruelty into something more palatable. She called my engagement ring tasteless in front of a restaurant full of people. Jade was quiet for a moment. Look, I get it. Mom can be a lot. But making Ethan call her? That's escalating things. He didn't need my permission. He heard what she said and decided to do something about it. Well, now she's talking about canceling your engagement party. She called Patricia Monroe this morning and said she might need to postpone. Do you know how embarrassing that is? Patricia is one of her biggest clients. Something cold settled in my chest. So this isn't about me being hurt. This is about Mom's reputation. Jade didn't answer. She didn't need to. I have to go, she finally said. Just think about apologizing. Please. For all of us. She hung up. I sat there holding my phone, watching the family group chat light up with messages, Catherine posting updates about her emotional state, David posting about family unity, Marcus posting corporate speak about communication strategies, and Jade, silent now, having delivered her message and retreated. Ethan came out of the bedroom where he'd been working remotely, took one look at my face and said, "She's mobilizing the family." How did you know? Because it's what people like her do when they're cornered. They recruit allies, make it about the group instead of the behavior, turn one person's accountability into everyone's problem. He sat down next to me, pulled my phone gently from my hands and set it face down on the table. I need to tell you something about the ring. The full story. I already know it cost $47,000. You told me this morning. That's not the full story. He pulled up a folder on his laptop. Inside were documents, gemological certificates, appraisal reports, export documentation, and a series of emails between Ethan and someone named Dr. Sarah Okonkwo. The Paraiba tourmaline in your ring came from a specific mine in Mozambique that closed 8 years ago. Most Paraiba tourmalines are small, under 1 carat, and even then they're rare. The stone in your ring is 2.3 carats, gem quality. Vivid color saturation, no treatments, no enhancements, completely natural. He pulled up one of the appraisal documents. I saw numbers that made my vision blur. Current market value, $72,000. Projected value in 5 years, $90,000 to $110,000. Ethan, this is insane. It gets better. Dr. Okonkwo is one of the leading gemologists in rare colored stones. She has a PhD from GIA, and she's consulted for Sotheby's and Christie's on auction pieces. I hired her 6 months ago to help me source this stone. It took her 4 months to find one that met the criteria I gave her. Color, clarity, cut, ethical sourcing. Why ethical sourcing? Because your mother's diamond, the one she's so proud of, the one she uses as a measuring stick for everyone else's worth, I had it researched. What? He pulled up another folder. Inside were documents I didn't want to read but couldn't look away from. Kimberly process certificates with red flags, supply chain reports highlighting conflict regions, an analysis from an independent watchdog organization that specialized in tracking blood diamonds. Your father bought that ring in 1989 from a supplier in Antwerp. The stone came from a mine in Sierra Leone during the Civil War. There's a 73% probability, based on the sourcing records I was able to access, that your mother's diamond is a conflict stone. I felt sick. Your mother has spent 27 years holding up that ring as the standard of value, of love, of what a real man provides. And there's a strong chance it was mined by enslaved workers and sold to fund a war that killed 50,000 people. He closed the laptop. The stone in your ring was mined by a cooperative in Mozambique that pays fair wages, provides health care, and reinvests profits into local communities. Every step of the supply chain is documented. I can tell you the name of the person who cut this stone, the village where it was mined, the family who benefits from the revenue. Why didn't you tell me this before? Because I wanted you to love the ring for what it was, not for what it cost or where it came from. But now your mother has made this about value, so I'm going to show her what value actually means. What are you going to do? I'm going to send her the appraisal, the gemological certificate, the ethical sourcing documentation, and the research on her diamond. Ethan, that will destroy her. No, that will give her a choice. She can acknowledge what she said was wrong, or she can double down and I'll make sure everyone at that engagement party, everyone on her client list, everyone who thinks Catherine Chen is the arbiter of taste and class, knows exactly what she's been wearing on her finger for 35 years. This is going to get worse before it gets better, I said. I know, but worse is the only way to get to better. You can't heal an infection by leaving it covered. He was right. I knew he was right. But knowing something intellectually and being ready for it emotionally are two completely different things. That evening, Ethan drafted the email. He showed me every word before he sent it. It was clinical, factual, devastating. Subject line: yesterday's conversation. Mrs. Chen? Since our call this morning, I've received several messages from family members suggesting I apologize for being disrespectful. I'm writing to clarify exactly what happened and to provide context you may find relevant. At Sunday's brunch, you held Vesper's engagement ring up to the light and stated, "In front of Patricia Monroe, Susan Blackwell, and your family, I suppose love doesn't require taste." You then posted on Instagram about occasions requiring excellence in every detail while tagging your business associates. I called to request an apology. You declined, stating you were entitled to your opinions and that Vesper was being too sensitive. I'm attaching 3 documents for your review. First, a gemological certificate from Dr. Sarah Okonkwo, senior gemologist and GIA certified appraiser for the Paraiba tourmaline in Vesper's ring. Current appraisal value: $72,000. Second, ethical sourcing documentation tracing the stone from mine to market, including fair wage verification and community investment records. Third, a supply chain analysis of your own diamond ring, purchased in 1989 from Antwerp suppliers with documented connections to conflict regions in Sierra Leone. I'm not asking you to apologize because I want to be right. I'm asking because your daughter deserves basic respect. You have until Friday at 5 p.m. to decide whether you'd like to offer that respect privately or have this conversation become public at the engagement party you're planning. The choice is yours. Ethan Rhodes. He looked at me. Should I send it? I thought about all the times I'd stayed quiet, all the times I'd smoothed things over, all the years I'd spent believing that silence was the same as peace. Send it. He pressed the button at 7:43 p.m. on Monday evening. The email took 2 seconds to send. The response took 4 minutes. Catherine's reply was a single line. "You've just made the biggest mistake of your life." Ethan looked at me and smiled. Not a cruel smile, not triumphant, just the quiet smile of someone who'd calculated every possible outcome and was ready for all of them. "No," he said to the empty room. She did. "Before I go any further, I want to pause and ask you something. Have you ever had to choose between keeping the peace in your family and keeping your self-respect? Have you ever stayed quiet during a holiday dinner, a family gathering, a celebration where someone said something that hurt you, but you smiled and let it go because speaking up felt too dangerous, too difficult, too costly? Drop a comment right now and tell me about it. Tell me what happened. Tell me if you regret staying quiet or if you eventually spoke up. I read every single comment and I want to know I'm not alone in this. And if this story is resonating with you, if you're seeing yourself or your family or someone you love in Vesper's situation, hit that subscribe button because what happens next is going to show you exactly what happens when someone finally stops playing by the narcissist's rules. Now let me tell you what my mother did in the 72 hours between that email and the engagement party she'd planned without my permission. Catherine's response to Ethan's email wasn't silence. It was a tactical nuclear strike disguised as maternal concern. Within 2 hours of receiving those documents, she'd called an emergency family meeting at my parents' house. She texted the family group chat at 9:45 p.m. on Monday night. "Family meeting tomorrow, Tuesday, 6 p.m. at the house. This concerns everyone. Attendance is mandatory." Mandatory. Like we were employees at Chen and Associates instead of her children. Jade texted me privately 10 minutes later. "Please tell me you're coming. Mom is spiraling. She's been on the phone with her lawyer for the past hour." Her lawyer? For what? I don't know. But she keeps saying the word defamation. Vesper, what did Ethan send her? I didn't respond. Let Jade wonder. Let her sit with the discomfort of not knowing, the same way I'd sat with the discomfort of being humiliated at brunch while she watched and said nothing. Ethan and I talked about whether to attend the family meeting. He wanted to go. I wasn't sure. She's going to ambush us, I said. She's had 24 hours to prepare her performance. She'll have talking points, evidence, tears probably. This is what she does for a living. Crisis management. Good, Ethan said. Let her perform. We have facts. She has feelings. Facts win. We arrived at my parents' house at 5:58 p.m. on Tuesday. Catherine's car was in the driveway along with Jade and Marcus's Mercedes. Through the front window, I could see movement in the living room. Multiple people. How many people did she invite to a family meeting? I said. Ethan squeezed my hand. Witnesses. She's building her case. We walked in. Sitting in the living room were Catherine, David, Jade, Marcus, and three people I didn't expect. Patricia Monroe, Catherine's hotel magnate client. Susan Blackwell, the symphony board member from brunch. And a man in an expensive suit I didn't recognize, holding a leather portfolio. Catherine stood when we entered. She was dressed like she was going to court. Cream blouse, tailored navy pants, her hair pulled back in a severe bun. No smile, no warmth, pure business. Vesper. Ethan. Thank you for coming. She gestured to the couch like this was a client meeting. Please, sit. Who's he? I pointed at the man with the portfolio. This is Richard Kellerman. He's an attorney who specializes in defamation and libel law. I've asked him to be present for this conversation. Ethan didn't sit down. Neither did I. This is a family meeting, Catherine. Why is your lawyer here? Because your fiancé sent me highly inflammatory accusations that could damage my professional reputation and my business. I want everything that's said tonight to be documented. Richard opened his portfolio and pulled out a legal pad. Started writing the date and time at the top of the page. Jade looked uncomfortable, shifting in her seat next to Marcus. David sat in his usual chair by the fireplace, staring at his hands. Catherine walked to the center of the room. She was performing now, playing to her audience of Patricia, Susan, and Richard. This was her closing argument. Ethan, she began, her voice measured and calm. The documents you sent me last night contain serious allegations about a ring my husband purchased for me 35 years ago. You claim, without definitive proof, that my diamond may have originated from a conflict region. You've made implications about the ethics of my jewelry, and by extension, my character. She paused for effect. You've also attached an appraisal suggesting that the ring you purchased for my daughter is worth $72,000. I had that appraisal reviewed by my own gemologist today. She pulled out a document. According to Gerald Hastings, senior appraiser at Hastings & Yao, a reputable firm here in Seattle, the actual market value of that tourmaline is closer to $38,000. Your appraiser inflated the value by nearly double. Ethan pulled out his phone, opened an email, handed the phone to Richard. That's Dr. Sarah Okonkwo's credentials. PhD from GIA, 23 years of experience. Consultant for Sotheby's, Christie's, and the Smithsonian. She's appraised stones for 3 royal families and testified as an expert witness in 12 international cases involving rare gemstones. Who's your guy? Richard looked at the phone, then at Catherine. Gerald Hastings has been appraising jewelry in Seattle for 40 years, Catherine said, but her voice had lost some of its confidence. And his PhD is in what? Ethan asked. His certifications? His publications? Catherine's jaw tightened. Ethan continued, his voice still calm, still even. Dr. Okonkwo provided 3 separate valuations based on current market comps, auction records, and rarity indices. Your appraiser looked at it for what, an hour? And gave you the number you wanted to hear. This is exactly the problem, Catherine snapped. You think you can come into this family with your research and your documentation and your accusations, and somehow that makes you right? You don't understand how things work. How do things work, Mrs. Chen? The room went silent. In this family, Catherine said, we handle disagreements privately, with respect, with consideration for how our actions affect everyone else. You sent me an email threatening to expose private family matters at a public event. That's not conflict resolution. That's blackmail. I called you first, Ethan said. Monday morning at 6:15 a.m. I asked you to apologize to Vesper for what you said at brunch. You refused. You said she was being too sensitive, and that you were entitled to your opinions. I gave you the private option. You chose differently. Patricia Monroe shifted uncomfortably in her chair. I saw her glance at Susan. Catherine turned to me. Vesper, sweetheart, this man is trying to control you. He's isolating you from your family. He's creating conflict where there doesn't need to be any. These are classic signs of an abusive relationship. I actually laughed. Not a polite laugh. A sharp, bitter sound that surprised even me. Mom, Ethan asked you to apologize for humiliating me. That's not control. That's accountability. You're being manipulated, Catherine said, and her voice took on that edge of desperation I'd heard before when she was losing an argument. Can't you see that? He's turned you against your own mother. No, I said. You did that yourself. 27 years of doing that yourself. Jade stood up. Okay, everyone needs to calm down. We're family. We love each other. Let's just take a breath and find a solution that works for everyone. There it was. Jade's default. Find the middle ground. Smooth it over. Pretend the problem is volume instead of content. What solution would work for you, Jade? I asked. The one where I apologize to Mom for being hurt? The one where Ethan takes back his email and we all pretend brunch didn't happen? The one where I spend the rest of my life swallowing insults so you don't have to feel uncomfortable at family dinners? Jade's face flushed. That's not fair. You were there. You heard what she said, and you told me to fix it. Not Mom. Me. Jade sat back down. Marcus put his hand on her knee, but she shook it off. David finally spoke. His voice was quiet, barely audible over the tension in the room. Catherine, he said, what did you say at brunch? Everyone turned to look at him. David, who never spoke up, who never challenged, who'd spent 35 years nodding along. Catherine stared at her husband. David, this isn't the time. What did you say about Vesper's ring? I don't remember exactly. I was surprised by the choice. I may have made a comment. You said love doesn't require taste, I said. You held my ring up to the light in front of Patricia and Susan and the entire restaurant, and you said that. Patricia looked down at her hands. Susan took a sudden interest in her water glass. It was a joke, Catherine said, but her voice had lost its conviction. No, David said, and his voice was stronger now. It wasn't. Catherine turned to her husband, and for the first time since we'd arrived, I saw something crack in her composure. Fear, maybe, or the realization that her most reliable ally had just defected. David, you're not helping. I'm done not helping, he stood up. I'm done watching you do this to our daughters and pretending it's normal. I'm done being the person who makes excuses for you. The room held its breath. 35 years ago, David continued, I bought you that diamond because you told me it's what you deserved, that a proper engagement required a certain standard. I took out a loan to pay for it, worked overtime for 6 months to cover the debt. And you've held that ring over everyone's head ever since, used it as proof that you made the right choice, that you married up, that you won. Catherine's face had gone pale. But I didn't buy you that ring because I valued you. I bought it because I was afraid of you. Afraid that if I didn't meet your standard, you'd leave. You'd find someone else who could give you what you thought you deserved. And I've spent 35 years living with that fear, agreeing with you, supporting you, staying silent while you did to our daughters what your mother did to you. Wait, what? I looked at David. What do you mean what her mother did to her? Catherine's mother, your grandmother Eleanor, spent 40 years comparing Catherine to her sister. Told her she wasn't pretty enough, wasn't accomplished enough, didn't marry well enough. Eleanor held up Catherine's sister Margaret as the standard, the same way Catherine holds up Jade. I didn't know that. I'd met my grandmother Eleanor exactly 3 times before she died when I was 12. Catherine never talked about her. I became my mother, Catherine whispered. The words came out broken, barely audible. I swore I wouldn't, and I did. Richard, the lawyer, closed his portfolio. I don't think this requires legal documentation. Patricia stood up. Catherine, Susan and I are going to step outside, give you some privacy. They left quickly, 2 of Catherine's most important clients walking out of her family meeting, leaving her standing in the middle of her own living room with her carefully constructed defense collapsing around her. Marcus followed them out, pulling Jade gently by the hand. Jade looked back at me once, her expression unreadable. before the door closed. It was just the four of us now. Catherine, David, Ethan, and me. Catherine sat down on the couch, put her face in her hands. For a long moment no one spoke. Then she looked up at me. "I'm sorry." 2 words I'd waited 27 years to hear. But I wasn't ready to accept them yet. "For what specifically?" I asked. She blinked. "What? What specifically are you sorry for?" "For," she hesitated, "for hurting your feelings." "That's not the same thing." Ethan sat down on the arm of my chair. His hand found the small of my back, steady, grounding. "Mrs. Chen," he said gently, "I don't want to humiliate you. I never did. But Vesper deserves to hear you say exactly what you're sorry for." Catherine looked at David. He nodded once. She took a breath. "I'm sorry for what I said about your ring at brunch. I'm sorry for holding it up and making a spectacle of it. I'm sorry for comparing it to Jade's ring. I'm sorry for posting about standards on Instagram. I'm sorry for making you feel like you weren't good enough, like you've never been good enough. And I'm sorry that I've spent your entire life measuring you against an impossible standard that I created because my mother did the same thing to me." Her voice broke on the last sentence. "I'm sorry, Vesper. I'm truly sorry." The engagement party was scheduled for Saturday evening. Rainier Club, Cascade Room, 120 guests. Catherine had spent 6 weeks planning it, sending invitations, coordinating with caterers, selecting the menu, choosing the flowers. On Wednesday morning, she called the club and canceled everything. She sent an email to the guest list that afternoon. Short, simple, no excuses. "Due to unforeseen family circumstances, Saturday's engagement celebration has been canceled. We appreciate your understanding and will reach out with new plans soon." Then she called Patricia and Susan personally. I wasn't there for those conversations, but Jade told me later that Catherine apologized for involving them in family drama, thanked them for their discretion, and asked for their patience while she worked through some personal matters. Thursday morning, Ethan and I met Catherine for coffee. Just the three of us at a quiet place near Green Lake, far from anyone who might recognize her. She looked different. No makeup, hair in a simple ponytail, wearing jeans and a sweater instead of her usual tailored perfection. She looked smaller somehow, more human. "I've made an appointment with a therapist," she said. "Dr. Rachel Winters. She specializes in family dynamics and generational trauma. My first session is next Tuesday." "That's good, Mom. And I want to say something to Ethan." She turned to face him directly. "You were right, about everything. About the ring. About the way I've treated Vesper. About my need to control the narrative. And I'm sorry for threatening you with legal action. That was..." She paused, searching for the word. "That was my mother's playbook. When cornered, attack." Ethan nodded. "I appreciate that, Mrs. Chen. I'd like to ask if you and Vesper would consider letting me host a small dinner. Just family, no performance, no clients, no agenda. Just a chance for me to show you that I'm capable of change." "We'll think about it," I said. "That's all I'm asking." We finished our coffee. When we stood to leave, Catherine hugged me. A real hug, not the performative kind she did at events. She held on for a few seconds longer than necessary, and I felt her shoulders shake once before she steadied herself. "Thank you for not giving up on me," she whispered. "I haven't yet," I said. "But Mom, I need you to understand something. This isn't fixed. An apology isn't the same as change. And if you fall back into old patterns, I'm not going to stay quiet anymore." "I know," she said. "I know." Friday evening, Ethan was cooking dinner in my apartment when his phone buzzed. He looked at the screen and smiled. "It's Dr. Okonkwo." He opened the email, read for a moment, then handed me the phone. The email was brief. "Ethan, I wanted to let you know that I received a call today from a Gerald Hastings in Seattle. He asked about my appraisal methodology for the Paraiba tourmaline. I provided my research, market comps, and recent auction results. He thanked me for the information and said he would be revising his initial assessment. He also mentioned that the client who hired him seemed surprised by the discrepancy. Professional courtesy compelled me to be thorough. "I hope this helps. Best, Sarah." "So Hastings admitted he lowballed it," I said. "Catherine paid him to give her the number she wanted. When she got caught, even her own appraiser sided with the truth." Ethan's phone buzzed again. This time it was a text from an unknown number. This is Richard Kellerman. I wanted to reach out informally to let you know Mrs. Chen has decided not to pursue any legal action. She's also asked me to convey that she appreciates your willingness to give her a chance to make things right. I don't usually get involved in family matters, but I wanted to say that what you did took courage. Not many people are willing to stand up to someone like Catherine Chen. Good luck to you both. Ethan showed me the text. Even her lawyer is on your side, I said. Truth has a way of doing that. Saturday, the day the engagement party was supposed to happen, Ethan and I drove to Mount Rainier. We hiked to Reflection Lake, sat on a fallen log, and watched the mountain mirror itself in the still water. My phone was off. His phone was off. For 6 hours, we existed outside the range of family drama, crisis management, and performative apologies. Do you regret it? I asked. All of this. Taking on my mother, the email, the confrontation. Ethan put his arm around me, pulled me close. I regret that it was necessary, but no, I don't regret standing up for you. The ring on my finger caught the afternoon light. Electric blue-green, glowing like it had its own internal fire. The rarest stone I'd ever seen, given to me by a man who'd researched for months to find something that matched who I was, not who anyone else thought I should be. I love you, I said. I love you too. He kissed the top of my head. And for what it's worth, your mom's going to be okay. This is going to be hard for her. Change always is. But she's capable of it. I saw that in her eyes at coffee. She looked scared. And scared means she's finally paying attention. We sat there until sunset, watching the light change on the mountain, watching the reflection shift and blur and sharpen again. And for the first time in 27 years, I felt like I could breathe. The week after the canceled engagement party, Catherine's carefully constructed world began to show cracks in places she'd spent decades reinforcing. It started small. A missed invitation here, an unreturned phone call there. The kind of social erosion that happens slowly at first, then all at once. Tuesday morning, Jade called me. Her voice sounded different. Tired maybe, or something deeper. The polished composure she usually maintained had worn thin. I need to talk to you about something. Can we meet for lunch? We met at a cafe in Fremont, one of those quiet places with mismatched furniture and locally roasted coffee that Catherine would never set foot in because it didn't have the right aesthetic for her Instagram. Jade looked exhausted. Dark circles under her eyes, her hair pulled back in a messy ponytail instead of her usual sleek style. She ordered black coffee and didn't touch it. Marcus read Ethan's email, she said without preamble. How? Mom forwarded it to Dad. Dad's email is synced to the home computer. Marcus was working from the house last week and saw it pop up in a notification. Jade wrapped both hands around her coffee mug like she was trying to absorb its warmth. He didn't say anything for 2 days. Then Thursday night, after Mom canceled the party, he asked me if I knew about the conflict diamond thing. If I knew that Mom's ring might have come from Sierra Leone during the Civil War. I waited, let her work through it. I told him I didn't know. That it was probably just something Ethan dug up to make a point, that it wasn't relevant. Jade looked up at me, and her eyes were red. Marcus said, "How is it not relevant? How is wearing a blood diamond for 35 years while lecturing everyone else about standards and values not relevant?" What did you say? I didn't have an answer. And that's when he told me something I didn't know. She took a breath. 3 years ago, when Marcus was shopping for my engagement ring, Mom took him to her jeweler, the same place Dad bought her ring. She told Marcus that anything under 2 carats would be an embarrassment to the family, that the Chen women had a certain standard to uphold. I remembered Jade's engagement, remembered the ring reveal at family dinner, the way Catherine had held Jade's hand up to the light, the same way she'd done with mine, except that time she'd smiled, that time she'd approved. Marcus told me he spent $43,000 on my ring because Mom said anything less would make him look cheap. He took money out of his retirement account. He was 28 years old and he raided his 401k because my mother convinced him that his love for me could be measured in carats. Jade's voice cracked. And I never knew. I thought he just wanted to give me something beautiful. I had no idea Mom had orchestrated the whole thing. That she'd set a price point for my worth and he'd met it because he was terrified of losing me. She finally took a sip of her coffee, set it down with shaking hands. Marcus hasn't talked to Mom since he read that email. He told me Sunday night that he's done attending family events where Catherine is present, that he'll support me in whatever relationship I choose to have with her, but he's not going to sit at another dinner table and pretend that what she does is normal. How do you feel about that? Jade looked out the window, watched people walking past on the street. Normal people living normal lives without the weight of performing for a mother who kept score of everything. I'm relieved, she finally said. And that makes me feel guilty. She's our mother. I should want to defend her. But Marcus is right. What she does isn't normal. And I've spent so long pretending it is that I don't even know what normal looks like anymore. She turned back to me. Do you remember Christmas 4 years ago? The year Marcus got Mom those kitchen knives? The German ones. Carbon steel. I remember. She told me privately that they were a thoughtful gift but lacked imagination. That Marcus should have known she preferred experiences over objects. Then she spent the rest of the week telling everyone about the spa weekend Dad got her. I screenshotted your text about it, I said. The one where you asked me not to tell anyone what she said. Jade blinked. You still have that? I pulled out my phone, scrolled back 2 years in my messages with Jade, found the screenshot, showed it to her. Mom said Marcus's Christmas gift was thoughtless. Please don't tell anyone. Jade stared at the screen. I saved it because some part of me knew I'd need proof someday. Proof that I wasn't making it up. That she really did say these things. That I wasn't too sensitive, or overreacting, or imagining the hurt. Jade covered her face with her hands. God, Vesper, what's wrong with us that we need to screenshot our own mother's insults just to prove to ourselves they happened? We sat there in silence for a long moment. Two daughters of Catherine Chen, finally admitting out loud what we'd both known in the quiet spaces we didn't talk about. I'm sorry, Jade said, for telling you to fix it, for making Ethan's email about Mom's reputation instead of your feelings, for choosing her comfort over your dignity every single time it mattered. Thank you. I don't know how to do this. How to have a relationship with her that doesn't require me to gaslight myself. How to love someone who's hurt me this much. I don't know either, I said. But I think we start by admitting we don't have to figure it out alone. Jade reached across the table and squeezed my hand. Her nails were bare. No polish, no manicure, no performance. Marcus wants to meet Ethan, she said. He told me he wants to sit down with the only person in this family who had the guts to say what everyone else was thinking. They met Thursday evening at a brewery in Ballard. I wasn't there, but Ethan told me about it later while we were getting ready for bed. Marcus ordered an IPA. Ethan got the same. They sat at a high-top table near the window and didn't talk about work or weather or any of the safe topics men usually default to when they're uncomfortable. Marcus said, I read your email to Catherine. I figured, Ethan said. That thing about the conflict diamond, is that real? As real as I can verify without having the stone independently tested, which Catherine would never allow. But based on the supplier records, the time period, and the sourcing location, yeah, there's a high probability. Marcus took a long drink of his beer. I've been married to Jade for 3 years. We've attended probably 50 family dinners, 20 holiday gatherings, countless events where Catherine held court, and everyone else just nodded along. And in all that time, I never once saw anyone call her out. Not David, not Jade, not the extended family. No one. He looked at Ethan. Why did you do it? Because someone had to. And because I love Vesper enough to be the bad guy, if that's what it takes for her to stop accepting cruelty disguised as family dynamics. Marcus nodded slowly. Catherine called me Monday, asked me to convince Jade to talk some sense into Vesper, to make you apologize. She said you were tearing the family apart. What did you say? I told her that families that fall apart when someone asks for basic respect were already broken. The asking didn't break them. It just made the cracks visible. Ethan said they sat there for another hour. Talked about the invisible rules of Catherine's world, the scoreboards she maintained, the hierarchies she enforced. Marcus told him about the retirement account he'd raided to buy Jade's ring. About the quarterly dinners where Catherine ranked his career progress against other sons-in-law. About the time she'd introduced him to a client as Jade's husband who works in finance, as if private equity partner at a top-tier firm needed to be diminished into something vague and unimpressive. I thought I was the only one, Marcus said. Thought maybe I was being too sensitive. That successful families just operated differently. and I needed to adapt. You weren't too sensitive, Ethan told him. You were being systematically devalued by someone who's built her entire identity on making other people feel small. They finished their beers, made plans to get together again the following week, this time with Jade and me included. As Marcus was leaving, he turned back. "Thank you," he said, "for being brave enough to go first." Wednesday afternoon, I got a call from Patricia Monroe, Catherine's client, the hotel magnate who'd been at the disastrous family meeting. "Vesper, I hope I'm not overstepping by calling you directly. I got your number from your mother's contact list." "That's fine, Mrs. Monroe. What can I do for you?" "I wanted to reach out because I've been doing some thinking since last week about the meeting at your parents' house, about what I witnessed there." She paused. I could hear the careful selection of words, the deliberate phrasing of someone who'd spent years navigating difficult conversations. "Your mother has represented my hotels for 6 years. She's excellent at her job, brilliant at crisis management, media relations, reputation building. But after what I saw last week, I've realized something. She's so good at managing other people's crises because she's had a lifetime of practice managing her own." I didn't know what to say to that. "I'm not canceling my contract with her," Patricia continued, "but I am implementing some boundaries. I've told Catherine that our relationship moving forward will be strictly professional. No more personal dinners, no more family event invitations, no more blurred lines between client and friend." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want you to know that what your fiancé did, standing up to her the way he did, that took extraordinary courage. And it worked. Not just for you, but for everyone in Catherine's orbit who's been waiting for someone to finally say the emperor has no clothes." She paused again. "Your mother built her reputation on the idea that she has perfect taste, perfect judgment, perfect family. Last week you showed everyone that perfection was a performance. Some people are going to resent you for that, but a lot of us are grateful. Thank you, Mrs. Monroe. Call me Patricia. And Vesper, don't let her make you feel guilty for setting boundaries. That's how she maintains control. Through guilt." By Friday, the social consequences had fully materialized. Catherine resigned from the planning committee for the Seattle Symphony Gala, an event she'd chaired for 4 years. The official reason was time constraints. The real reason, according to Jade, who heard it from a friend on the board, was that Susan Blackwell had quietly suggested Catherine step back this year to focus on personal matters. In Catherine's world, that kind of suggestion wasn't optional. It was a polite execution. Her Thursday lunch group, 5 women she'd met with weekly for the past 8 years, suddenly had scheduling conflicts. 1 week turned into 2. The group text went quiet. And then there was the Cascade Partners deal. Catherine had been courting Cascade Partners, a venture capital firm, for 8 months. They were looking for a PR consultant to manage communications for their portfolio companies. It was a $2.3 million annual contract, the biggest deal Catherine had pursued in 5 years. She'd made it to the final round, just her firm and one other competitor. Tuesday morning, she got the email. "After careful consideration, Cascade Partners has decided to move forward with Thompson Strategic Communications. We appreciate Chen and Associates' proposal and wish you continued success." Jade told me Catherine sat in her office for 2 hours after receiving that email. Didn't take calls, didn't check messages, just sat there staring at her computer screen. David finally went in and found her crying. Not the performative crying she'd done at family events when she wanted sympathy. Real crying. The kind that comes from finally understanding that actions have consequences. She lost it, Jade said. The deal, the committee position, her lunch group, everything she's spent years building. And it all came down in less than 2 weeks. "Do you feel bad for her?" I asked. Jade thought about it. "Yes and no. I feel bad that she's hurting. She's still my mother. But I also think this is the first time in her entire life that she's faced real accountability. And maybe that's what she needs to actually change." 3 months after the canceled engagement party, Ethan and I got married in Discovery Park on a clear October afternoon. We'd sent 45 invitations. No ballroom, no string quartet, no champagne fountain. Just a clearing overlooking Puget Sound, folding chairs we'd set up ourselves that morning, and a playlist running through a portable speaker. Jade stood next to me as my maid of honor, wearing a simple navy dress she'd picked out herself, not the matching bridesmaid gowns Catherine had suggested we coordinate through her preferred boutique. Marcus stood next to Ethan, David walked me down a grass path instead of a formal aisle. Ethan's parents sat in the front row next to my college roommate and three friends from work. And in the back row, sitting alone in a chair she'd helped us carry from the parking lot that morning, was Catherine. She'd called 2 weeks before the wedding and asked if the invitation was still open. Her voice had been quiet, stripped of performance. "I don't want to insert myself into your day," she'd said, "but I'd like to be there. If you'll have me." "We'll have you, Mom." She'd arrived early that morning, helped us unload chairs from Ethan's truck, didn't offer suggestions about flower arrangements or ceremony timing, didn't pull out her phone to document anything for Instagram, just worked alongside us, quiet and present. When the officiant asked who gives this woman, David said, "Her mother and I do." Catherine nodded from her seat in the back, eyes red but smiling. The ceremony lasted 15 minutes. We'd written our own vows. Ethan promised to always choose truth over comfort, to stand beside me when things got hard, to never let anyone, including family, make me feel less than I was. I promised to keep building a life based on what we valued, not what anyone else measured. To remember that love isn't counted in carats or captured in perfect photos, but lived in quiet moments when no one's watching. When Ethan slipped the Paraiba tourmaline wedding band onto my finger, the electric blue-green stone caught the afternoon light and seemed to glow from within. The rarest stone in the world, paired now with a simple platinum band. At the reception, held in Ethan's parents' backyard with catered Thai food and a cake from the grocery store bakery, Catherine approached us. "Thank you for letting me be here," she said. "I know I didn't earn it." "You're working on earning it," I said. "That's different than not deserving it." She nodded, handed me a small box wrapped in plain paper, no elaborate ribbon or designer gift bag. Inside was a framed photo I'd never seen before. Catherine and me, I was maybe 4 years old, sitting together on a beach somewhere. We were both laughing at something off camera. No performance. No posing. Just a mother and daughter having a genuine moment before the scorekeeping began. "Dr. Winters asked me to find a photo of us where I looked actually happy," Catherine said. "Not posed happy. Really happy. This was the only one I could find. From before I learned to measure everything." Her voice cracked. "I want more photos like this. With you, with your future children if you have them. Photos where nobody's performing. I don't know if I'll get there, but I'm trying." I hugged her. She held on tight, longer than she needed to, like she was memorizing what it felt like to connect instead of compete. When we pulled apart, she looked at Ethan. "Thank you for loving my daughter enough to tell me the truth. Even when it cost me everything I thought mattered, you gave me the chance to figure out what actually does." Ethan shook her hand, then pulled her into a brief hug. "You're welcome at our table, Mrs. Chen. Always. As long as respect comes with you." "It will," she said. "I promise it will." That evening, as the sun set over the Sound and our 45 guests mingled in the backyard, Jade found me by the dessert table. "You did it," she said. "You set the boundary, and somehow we all survived." "We're still surviving," I said. "This isn't fixed. It's just better." "Better is enough," Jade said. "Better is more than we had 3 months ago." She was right. Catherine left early, hugged both of us goodbye, and drove home alone. No dramatic exit, no tears, no making the day about her absence, just a quiet departure that felt like progress. Later, Ethan and I sat on the porch steps of his parents' house, watching the last guests leave. The Paraiba tourmaline on my finger caught the porch light. "Do you have any regrets?" I asked. "About what?" "All of it. The email, the confrontation, taking on my mother, blowing up my family's carefully maintained fiction." Ethan pulled me close. "Not for 1 second. You deserved better than what you were accepting. And now you have it." We sat there until the stars came out. Two people who'd chosen truth over performance, boundaries over peace, and somehow found both. My name is Vesper Chen. I'm 27 years old. I'm married to a software engineer who researched for 3 months to find a stone that matched who I am, not who anyone else wanted me to be. And on my finger is a Paraiba tourmaline worth $72,000 that my mother once called tasteless. She knows better now. We all do. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever had to choose between family harmony and self-respect, drop a comment and tell me about it. Your story matters. And hit that subscribe button, Because these stories, the real ones about boundaries and family and finding your voice, they're what we're here for. Thank you for listening.